Welcome back, everyone. And for those of you who have just joined us, a very warm welcome to the SGUnited Financial Sector Jobs and Skills Fair. This today's event is brought to you by the Institute of Banking and Finance in partnership with Skills Future Singapore in support of SGUnited Jobs and Skills, and supported by the MAS, the Banking and Financial Services Union, and WSG. My name is Florence, and I'll be your host for this afternoon. For those of you who are looking for job opportunities from the financial sector, we have an exciting lineup for you this afternoon. We have invited business leaders from our industry partners to share their insights on how job functions have changed and what are some of the skill sets that job seekers will need to accelerate their career progression across various areas. For our first panel this afternoon, we will look at job roles in insurance in the digital age. On the panel will be Mr. Lee Nalalingam, Technology and Transformation Capability Lead of Viva, and Mr. Albie Yeo, Head of Talent Acquisition for Prudential Assurance Company Singapore. The discussion will be moderated by Ms. Tan Yen Wei, Head of Employability Skills and Development for the IBF. The audience is encouraged to post any questions you have for the panel in the Q&A box, and we'll answer these live. Over to you, Yen Wei.
Thank you, Florence. So let's just give a few seconds for our panelists to turn on their videos. Hi, a very good afternoon to everyone. I hope all of you had a good lunch. Thank you for joining us on this Fireside chat, and we are very happy to have with us on the panel today, Lee, who is the Technology and Transformation Capability Lead from Viva, as well as LB, Head of Talent Acquisition, Prudential. So the topic of our chat today is insurance in the digital age. And we'll be hearing from Lee and LB, their perspectives on the transformation that's happening within the insurance industry and how this has impacted the jobs and skills required for those of you who are interested to pursue or pivot into a career in insurance. So we'll also be happy to take questions, any questions that you may have. So I encourage you to post your questions in the Q&A chat box below, and we'll try to address as many of them as we can over the next 50 minutes. So to start off our chat, I'd like to invite Lee and LB to introduce themselves and to share with us their own career journeys, where they started and how they found themselves where they are today. So may I invite Lee to start? Over to you, Lee.
Cool, sure, I can go first. Hello, everyone. I am Lee. So my career journey, I've had far from a traditional career journey. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from London. Originally, I've been in Singapore for 6+ years now. So I originally started as a lawyer. So as with anyone with an Asian father, I had 3 choices to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. I chose lawyer. And then basically discovered I really didn't like law. It was very boring. And so I ended up in sales and consulting. And so in my early career, when I was 25, I built a $5 million sales and talent consulting business in the UK, and then got headhunted by one of my clients and spent the next 5 years or so working globally on consulting projects. Predominantly HR, transformation, that kind of stuff. And that's what brought me to Singapore in late 2014, early 2015. And so I moved to Singapore and I was responsible for 70+ countries. And then about a year ago, I joined Viva, my first foray into insurance. Originally started out in the HR team, doing talent acquisition and also HR transformation and employee experience. And then recently transitioned into the technology team, where I'm looking at the entire technology and transformation capability for Viva Singapore. Oh, are you on mute, Yang Wei?
Oh, sorry. Yep, I wanted to say thank you for sharing. Yeah, interesting story. Next, LB.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So, my career history, I think I took a very interesting path as well. You know, if I were to sort of rewind back some 10 over years ago. I started my career actually in the public service. I was actually in the military. I spent about a good 6 years in the military before I actually moved on into the civilian world. So I spent a couple of years thereafter as well within different government agencies in the public service. And subsequently, I moved on to the private sector. And like Lee, Prudential is actually the very first financial services company that I'm in. And I would say that it's been really, really exciting so far. And Prudential today, I head up the talent acquisition function. So I'm responsible for the hiring of our talents in Singapore across the entire corporate office, less the financial consultants, right? And perhaps just to kickstart this afternoon, I think I just want to share that nothing is impossible. I think both Lee and I took a very different route to where we are today, and I guess it's about the belief in yourself, and I'm sure you will get to wherever you want to go to. Right? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your journeys. Indeed, I think both of you are great examples of how it's possible and very possible to convert or transition into insurance even if you're from another sector. Okay, now we know that the insurance industry has started embarking on this digital transformation journey for some time. But I believe that this COVID-19 pandemic has actually accelerated the pace of digitalization, not just for insurance, but also across all sectors. And this acceleration basically means that existing employees or job seekers would have to embrace and adapt to these changes at a much faster rate. But I suppose it also presents a lot of new opportunities in terms of jobs. So the first question that I would like to raise to the panel is, how have transformation impacted the types of jobs that have evolved or emerged within your organizations? Lee, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's two answers to that, right? Because on the one hand, if we look at the COVID lens, everyone has had to accelerate, but I always argue that the only businesses that need to transform are the ones that didn't keep up to date in the first place, right? Like if we're very honest with COVID, like this platform we are talking through now, we've all had Skype since 2004. So, in a way, the real essence of transformation and the changes it brings to a business is more around our mindset and adaptability rather than just the technology itself. Now, that being said, insurance is probably a little bit guilty as a whole of not having kept up as quickly as some of the other industries. And within that, there is a huge shift in how things have changed. But I'd argue the roles themselves fundamentally are, in terms of job title, are still the same. We still need actuaries. We still need financial advisors. We still need claims people to do underwriting, people to work in technology. But I think what's happened with both COVID and the wider transformation is the biggest fundamental shift is not so much on the skills, because you can teach people new skills. It's more an emphasis on the soft skills of the person, the mindset of the person. Because if somebody has done something a certain way for 15 plus years, you can try and teach them new things, but if they're not open to new ideas, then, that's the bigger problem or the bigger challenge for whether that is Prudential, Viva, any of their competitors within insurance. But if you have a growth mindset, and you're willing to say, hey, why do we do it this way? And so, each role has changed the nuance. Fundamentally, it's still doing the same thing or has the same objective, but the ways of working have changed. But the degree to which they've changed often depends a lot on the mindset of the person doing the role. Because we can interview, and Albie will experience the same, we can interview people from our competitors who are all doing the same job, but they're all doing the exact same job in completely different ways now, based on the mindset of their organization and how much they've embraced new ways of working, or whether they're still working with pen and paper, And so for me, when I think about transformation and what's changed, I know that's not a very specific one in terms of, oh, now you must know how to use AI or robotic process automation. And there's a degree of that as well. But I think for most people, especially for this group of individuals who are maybe looking at career switch, that's what I'd want to get across more. It's more about the mindset of the individual to think of new ways and embrace change versus the hard skills, because a good company should be teaching you those new skills.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think a lot of times it's about mindset, and it could be the same job, but just that they're done very differently today. And I guess with that, you probably need new skills, or you need to keep upgrading or upskilling, reskilling the skills that you possess, so that you stay relevant and continue to be able to perform your work. LB, would you have any other perspectives to add?
Yeah, so I do very much agree with what Lee has mentioned, and perhaps if I could like to call out two soft skills that will be quite important in my opinion. Given the kind of change that COVID has brought us with, right? I think the first will be resilience, right? Interestingly, this morning, we just had our own internal strategy meeting, and we're discussing about what is the new norm going to be like for the entire company, right? With COVID, and one of the key things that have come up is resilience, right? And how we can actually build the resilience at two levels, right? Of course, one at organizational level, and of course the other is at an individual level, right? The resilience to adapt, like Lee said, and also to adopt new ways of working, new thoughts, new ideas, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. And I think secondly is the curiosity to learn, and always in that continuous learning mode, right? The truth is, no school is going to teach you everything, right? So of course these days with digitalization, companies are of course accelerating their move towards technologies around cybersecurity, data analytics, a use of artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. But question is, how do you get yourselves ready for it when it comes, right? So it's not going to be a case where you sign up for a class, go for like 3, 4, 6 months course, and suddenly you become very good at it, right? I think it's about continually being curious and always hungry to learn about what's in the market, what's new, and getting yourself ready when opportunity comes, right? And so for those who are in the call today here, which is why you're on the call here right now, right? Because you're getting yourselves ready for the future, and you may not be ready now, which is perfectly fine, but it's the next step you take to get yourself ready in the future, and continuous learning will get you there, right? So that's my view. Yeah. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, I think both of you shared very important skills and attitude that you should possess in this environment. Are there any specific jobs that you could identify that you think would be very something that you would look out for or you would hire for someone who may not have the relevant experience or may not come from the insurance sector? So we know that if they possess the relevant experience in terms of hiring, there wouldn't be much of a problem. But if we are looking at someone or job seekers who may be coming from other sectors or a non-insurance segment, what are some of these possible jobs that they could pursue? And what are some of the skills that they should come with?
Maybe just a quick one. I can just probably touch on this. I think with increased digitalization, companies are embarking on many different projects. I mean, Lee would know. Lee is actually in the thick of action, I believe, in Viva right now, and you probably have many different project teams working on different digitalization projects. So increasingly, we see more and more demands for project management skills, right? Project management skills, not with the traditional methodologies, but more towards more progressive methodologies related to the agile methodology, the lean, Six Sigma, and so on and so forth. which actually is something that is quite universal across different industries, right? So I think project management is possibly one of the areas where you might find a softer landing, moving from one industry to the other. You might need to take some time still to probably catch up on the domain knowledge. But that, that's just given, and you'll definitely be able to catch up in time. But the project management skills will be very, very transferable, right? And I do see that coming out a lot more, at least in the near to the long term. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Albi. And then what I'd add to that is, from an Aviva lens, I think we hire people from outside of the industry for pretty much every job in the company. As an organization, we're very much into growth mindset and so on. In fact, I think one of the problems we had with the SGUnited traineeships was we couldn't get enough slots. We could have taken hundreds of them. It's very internal mobility and development is very much at the heart of Aviva. I think we've won some awards for our partnerships with IBF on our PCP programs and things like that as well. If I think through specific roles, obviously distribution is always at the heart of that. Aviva have a very large financial advisory force. And most of our best financial advisors never came from an insurance background. They were chefs, they were lawyers, they worked in HR or whatever else, because where we try to be customer centric, we don't necessarily want our financial advisors to just be traditional insurance salespeople, So one of our best advisors I remember meeting, the reason he wanted to become a financial advisor is because he was like 19 or 20 and he had some really serious health problems and he had no insurance. And so his motivation was actually that he wanted to help other people to not be in the same situation as he was in, because he's now in a lot of debt because he had some very big medical bills and had no insurance cover. And so, within that, we have fully fledged training programs where we will take in anyone who wants to give it a try, put them through full training and certifications. But even in other areas, in technology at the moment, I think we're hiring for 12 traineeships, roughly, where we will take people who want to learn software engineering or digital transformation or whatever else. Same thing with claims and underwriting and all of our other areas with, customer service, etc. as well. But then I think the people who are most successful in terms of getting these opportunities are people with more transferable skills, right? So if you, for example, are going to move into learning customer experience and how to automate customer journeys and to provide better satisfaction to customers, if you've worked in some sort of client-facing or customer-facing role before, it's a little bit easier. Likewise, some of our best advisors, they worked in PR or they were, cabin crew or worked in front desk at hotels or whatever else. Likewise, if you want to become a technical person, if you were an accountant or, just even someone doing administration or so on, but your Excel skills were great. And so it's almost, if you're thinking about this career switch or what skills or where you could potentially go, it's just thinking about those transferable skills, because again, if you just want your project management certification, well, join Aviva. We have 14,000 training courses you can do for free on our learning platform. So you can get that certification and do that training, no problem. But if you want to get the actual opportunity, we're always happy to train people. We've had over 100 people we've trained to do new things in the company over the past couple of years. But it's easier if you have transferable skills. So I'd suggest to the people who are watching, think about what they currently do. What do they actually enjoy within that, and how could that be applied? Because if you like talking to people, there's people-centric roles. If you like being in the back office looking at, spreadsheets or so on, we've got plenty of those roles too. So, where do you fit? And then just reach out and have conversations with us or Prudential or whoever else, and just be like, well, this is kind of what I do, and ask us for advice, because again, a good firm will take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to also give you some feedback and help point you in the right direction.
Great. Sounds like a lot of possible opportunities that mid-career job seekers could look forward to. I think the traineeship is open not just to fresh graduates.
Yeah.
It's now been extended to mid-career new hires
Correct.
as well. And of course, along the way, if job seekers and financial institutions alike, if they find that you're a good fit for the organizations, I believe this could also be converted into a permanent position in time to come. LB, would you have any other roles or examples of transitions that have happened within your organizations, apart from those that we might have shared?
Yeah, so I thought perhaps one interesting story that I could share with you, probably two interesting stories, right? The first is actually quite personal. I won't say personal, but it's quite a bit closer to me in that sense. I had a HR colleague, right, who was a payroll specialist, right? So she spent probably large parts of her career doing payroll stuff, right? And but she was very strong, at some of the transferable skills, like Lee mentioned. She's really, really good at Excel, right? She's really, really good with working with data and things like that. And I think after some time in Prudential, there was an opportunity within the distribution part of the business, right, where she was able to sort of work on distribution compensation matters. Like maybe working on designing incentive schemes for financial consultants, the financial consultants, and that requires her to do a lot of back-end data work, as well as probably some level of analysis. She was able to take on the role quite well, right? And it's a lot. It's very interesting because we would typically think HR person would typically move within the HR field, but no, she moved from a corporate role right smack into the thick of the business action, right? So she's in the distribution side, and so that's one story. And the other that I could share was actually a particular financial consultant who subsequently was also put on the professional conversion program, the PCP, and he actually became a certified actuary, right? It's like so different, right? He was in the front line selling products, coaching coaching clients on wellness and stuff like that. But he suddenly had the calling, and he wanted to be at the back end, working on pricing and stuff like that. And through the PCP, actually is an actuary today, right? And I was pleasantly surprised myself, because even as an economics graduate myself, I find it quite hard to imagine myself suddenly moving into actuary. But for someone like this person I'm talking about, he made it happen, right? So this is kind of examples that gives me a lot of hope that as long as we are really focused and determined, we definitely can carve out a career for ourselves, right? Yeah, I hope that'll be quite helpful for you guys.
Yeah, totally agree with both of you. I think the professional conversion program, for those of you who may not be familiar, is actually a program supported by Workforce Singapore, and IBF is administering this for the financial sector. It provides opportunities for existing employees as well as mid-career new hires who may be looking to transition into a new or expanded role within the organizations to go through structured as well as on-the-job training, so that you are ready to take on the new roles. Yeah, okay, we've got some questions flowing in, so I think it's time to go into those questions. I think the first question from Jennifer, this is in relation to ICT jobs within insurance. I think it's a bit specific. They're asking what are the most in-demand jobs and compensation range. With LB or Lee, any of you would like to start first?
I don't mind going first if you want. So I'd almost turn this question around a little bit, right? Like, hold on a minute here. My Zoom is just frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay,
wonderful. So I'd almost turn this around a little bit in that, if we want to get very generic, anyone who can do data science, AI, robotic process automation, and those are in demand jobs in technology anywhere, and insurance are no different. But I'd argue that the true thing that's in demand again is it's the mindset of the person. Like one of the challenges for anyone in any technical role, not just technology, is technical people think in technical ways. And so if you're a technical person who can think through the lens of, customer, business, and not just here's a technical thing I need to create, you're more in demand regardless of your skill set, because of the value you can bring to the organization as a whole. And again, like I used to work for Accenture, who are a big technology consulting firm, for those who are unfamiliar with them. And we used to have a frustration with meet our clients, we'd agree a requirement, we'd then send it to our technical team, they would build it, and it doesn't work. And we'd go to the technical team and say, hey guys, this doesn't work. They'd be like, oh, we know, because what you put together wouldn't work. It's like, so why didn't you tell us? And present solutions. And so that, again, we're back to mindset and growth mindset and the ability to think that way. More specifically on the pay, this is where I turn it around. So one of my big things that I talk about a lot, and anyone here who follows me on social media will know this to be true, pay is related to the value that you deliver, right? So, what is the salary bracket? It's very simple. How much are you worth? If you are a software engineer, for example, and you just do whatever you're told, you're worth whatever is the pay for that person who does what they're told at the relevant banding for years experience and so on. If you are a software engineer who proactively looks at the business, spends some spare time to create additional solutions that can free up capacity, increase business efficiency, save us tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, the question all of a sudden becomes, how much would you like, right? And so people often, when they're looking at their career and looking at their pay, they just look at it in a very fixed way of, well, if somebody pays me 10% more, oh, good, I'll go. Actually, as individuals and as employees, you're actually responsible to a large degree for how much you're worth based on the value you deliver. And so if you have that proactive mindset, I achieved being a global head at 28 years old because I didn't have the required qualifications or the certifications or whatever else, but I saved the company $100 million. And so I ended up in a global head role. And so it's almost moving away from just what is the job title and what does it pay, to looking at yourself and thinking, what is the value you can bring and how much is that worth? That'd be my answer.
Great, thank you. LB, would you have anything to add?
I actually like Lee's answer very much. so I don't have like anything specific to add, but perhaps just let me list down probably some of the more common, but more in demand, specifically more in specific roles that are in demand right now. I think I mentioned earlier on, roles requiring understanding knowledge around cybersecurity, data analytics and visualization, project management. I think of course things like coding and stuff like that are quite in demand. But like Lee said, I mean it's common across all sectors anyway. So but I want to echo again what Lee said. For those of you who are already technologists today in a specific field, I think you need to bring that business lens into your solutions as well. Because at the end of the day, it's about solving a business issue. It's about having a solution that is aligned to customer expectation. And it's about being customer centric, right? So I just wanted to just add that point. In terms of compensation range, I would just say that perhaps I think data is quite easily available. You can just do a simple Google search. There are tons and tons of salary surveys that have been conducted by big brands, big employment companies out there. Feel free to go and take a look. They should give you a good indication of what it's like in the market, and that also helps to manage your own expectations, right? In terms of what you get. Of course, once you have gotten the job, then please take Lee's advice. to look at what value you can bring onto the table, then the conversation gets turned around to your benefit subsequently, right? Yep. Thanks.
Thank you. Adding on to LB's question, comment on project management. I think there was a question as well. For the project management role that you're looking to hire, would PMP certification be something that you look out for, or someone with transferable skills, in banking, fintech, or back or middle office roles? Would those be possible conversions into technology project management roles?
So let me answer this first, if you don't mind. My short answer here would be I've run over 100 projects in my career, and I have no project management certification. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Any company or any manager at a company who just goes, oh, well, because you can't have this certification, you can't do the job, even if you've got valuable experience in doing it, that's not a company or manager you want to work for anymore. Right? They should be looking at, especially as I'm gathering from this question, the person is an experienced professional. The company or the manager should be looking at the value you bring. So if you've had transferability between banking, fintech, front to back office, and so on, you sound like someone who most companies should be speaking to, because you have a 360 view of not just the organization, but maybe multiple elements within the varieties between banking to fintech. They should be speaking to you and understanding. However, if all you've done in that time is just done whatever the boss told you and done BAU and administration, then maybe you haven't demonstrated those project management skills. But if you can prove that you've looked at things, identified processes, and run those, the company should be speaking to you even if you don't have them.
Yeah, thank you. Great answer. Okay, the next question is in relation to actuarial roles. So perhaps LB can help us to take this question. Is the US or UK Australian actuarial curriculum preferred? And for fresh grads, are the actuarial degrees valuable, or can we take the exams directly and still get considered, hired for actuarial roles? Okay,
good question. So no real preference between US, UK, Australia. They're all okay. And if for some, well, of course, if you do not have an actual background, but you want to land your foot in the actual space, that can be done. Of course, if you wish to at least start taking exams and preparing yourselves for it first. I've seen examples within Prudential where a non-actuary person actually ended up taking an actuary position, right? And in fact, most recently, in our 2020 batch of management associates, I actually hired a fresh graduate into the actual specialist track without an actuary degree. And it was interesting also because this person that we eventually hired was someone who actually took on an internship with us in the actuary department. And at that point in time, he also didn't have an actuary background, right? But what really, really impressed us was the fact that he actually had some basic knowledge about actuarial science already, right? He actually went to do his own learn. Of course, he wasn't like, he hasn't passed any exams per se at that point in time, but he was actually able to talk the actual lingo. He was able to understand concepts, and that at that point in time really, really impressed the team, right? And of course, subsequently, he did very well in his internship, and he rejoined us as a management associate back into actuary again without the actuary degree. And of course, the commitment that we have, the commitment that Prudential will have as part of his learning is to continue to make sure to support him as he pursues his actual degree, because of course, as a qualified actuary, you will have to still go through the degree. Not degree, but the exams, and we are fully behind him, and he's doing very well. Yeah, so the answer is no, you don't have to. But it goes back again to continuous learning. It's how hungry you are in preparing yourselves for that move. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's amazing to know that Prudential and Viva are very supportive in terms of training for their employees. Not even employees, I think even for trainees that come through. So one other question that we have from an anonymous person is, what is the hiring outlook for Prudential and Viva in the next 1 or 2 years? Would Lee like to start first? Yeah. Thanks.
Sure. So we're going to keep this confidential, guys, because I don't know. I can't remember what was in announced financial results at half year and what's coming for the next quarter. So I'm going to keep this relatively high level, but the short answer is good. You know, if you compare Aviva's global results to our competitors, we've come out very well. If you go into our financial results and look at Singapore, we've outperformed the market, even during COVID. You know, we're pretty much roughly where we were same time last year, despite COVID. So for us, there's no real, you know, obviously we have to see what the rest of this year brings. But within that, we've had, you know, we're doing fine. We've also managed to get through this time with no redundancies, with no one taking a pay cut, or any of the other things that you read of in the press a lot. And in fact, I think we've actually grown headcount in the time. And in fact, I think that may be true of some of our competitors as well. I read in the insurance review yesterday that the life insurance industry has actually hired more people this year than it did last year, despite COVID. So we're not, you know, so I would argue that the hiring outlook remains good, but as with anything, your employability or your ability to remain employed comes back to what I've been saying all along, which is what value do you bring, right? If you as an individual just do a job, and this is true whether we're in COVID or whether we're in insurance or whether we're working for Google when everything is fine, it becomes a case of what do you bring to the table? You know, so if you know, a lot of people around the world across industries are worried about job security at the moment. So the way to look at this is very simply, what value do you bring to the table? Because if you make yourself indispensable, you never have to worry about job security or, you know, hiring outlooks or anything else. So if you focus on doing your things right, growth mindset, resilience, curiosity, as Albie said, and focus on going above and beyond, always fine. But like I say, for Viva 2020, 2021, it's positive for us. We're very, you know, optimistic, despite the global environment, and hopefully this continues.
Yeah, I just want to add on to the point that you shared about you know, having a growth mindset and being willing to learn. How can a job seeker, you know, who demonstrate or convey their ability to do all these, to have possess all these soft skills during an interview?
So short answer for that, it should be very, very easy. You know, so I ran a lot of internal training workshops for our managers earlier this year, on interviewing skills and so on as well. And there's two answers. Let's assume you work in, let me pick a generic job that's not insurance specific. Let's say you work in customer service, right? If you're interviewing 2 people for customer service, so tell me about your experience. I deal with customers. You know, we get queries and then I solve those problems, right? Is answer number 1. Or answer number 2 is, so, you know, obviously I do the same as everyone else. I deal with customer queries, you know, problems and so on. But actually in my spare time, I noticed that our customer satisfaction rating was only the 5th best in the company and I wanted to win. And so actually I spent some extra time to work with my team and we came up with a new way of working in order to deliver higher value. And we ended up, after 2 years, we went from number 5 to the number 1 best team on customer satisfaction. It's very clear to me which one of those people has the mentality that they have a fixed mindset, I do my job, I go home, and which one has a career and growth mindset where they want to do more, they have a higher level of ambition and so on. And that's how I assess it, is, you know, well, and how I teach our managers to assess when interviewing, is looking for, you know, everyone, you look at any job description, they all say the same thing. You look at our job description, Prudential job description, honestly say the same thing. What happens behind it is the mentality behind it of the individual and the nuance you have. And so 2 people can be doing the same job, but what did you do additionally? And that's how you demonstrate growth mindset. Because the truth is, most of us, probably even myself included, we all like to be lazy. Just do a job, go home, spend time with the wife and kids, right? But if you want to demonstrate it in the interview, it comes back to a growth mindset person is naturally going to have looked for what else can they do, what could they change, how else could they contribute. And so try and demonstrate that in your interview, as opposed to just, I did these tasks, because anyone in your industry doing the same thing does the same tasks.
Thank you. LB, would you like to add on to these points?
No, I'm good. I mean, focus on impact, right? In your interview, focus on what your role and what you have done and the impact you've delivered. That will be able to clearly articulate the kind of transferable skills that you will have that you can offer to the company. Yep.
Great. Okay. In this case, I will maybe get your help to address or answer the next question that have came up. Does insurance sector hire compliance specialists from, say, the banking or fund management segments? And if so, what are the additional or relevant skills that they should, equip themselves with if they have not worked in the insurance sector before? Maybe
right. So, sorry, okay, good. I'm muted. The answer is yes. The short answer is yes. We definitely will hire compliance specialists coming from the bank as well as the asset fund management sector. I think the additional skill sets that you might want to consider, or rather an additional area that you might want to consider venturing into is financial crimes analysis. There's been increased emphasis, and so naturally so because of increased digitalization and connectivity. Financial crimes has of course taken a leap forward, right? So that's an area that we at least in Prudential we will continue to see stronger emphasis on, and I've noticed that actually there aren't many such professionals in the market based on anecdotal feedback I've gotten my team of recruiters in terms of finding people with the right fit, right? So if you're in a compliance space and you're thinking of moving into insurance, upskilling yourselves in terms of financial crimes analysis could be something you want to look at, right? If not, I mean, in addition to that, perhaps you might want to start to build your understanding of what the insurance business is like, right? Which is to be honest not a very complex business model, but that will set you ready for a role within the insurance sector. Yeah. And of course, beyond that, would also emphasize once again the very important software attributes that you will need to come with as well. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Thanks to both of you for sharing. I think we've come to the end of this session. But before we go, I just wanted to invite both of you, LB and Lee, to provide some words of advice or takeaways that you would like to leave behind for the audience today. Lee, would you like to start?
Sure, let me start. So the words of encouragement is, so I'm a strong fan of accountability, right? And now here is the honest truth. Every single person who is here today at this thing, you can achieve basically anything you want from your career, providing you're willing to put in the work, right? Now, with all of these skills, all of these, whether it is job titles, specific industries, the people who are asking questions specifically about salary or whatever else, you can achieve all of this providing you deliver the value required in order to deserve it. And I used to work for Towers Watson, who are a HR consulting company, and one of the things we find when we do the research into salary levels and grades and everything is the truth is nearly everyone is paid what they're worth. There's very few people who are paid out of sync with that. And if you want more responsibility, you want a bigger opportunity, you want that, you just need to be able to demonstrate why you deserve that. And the good news is that all of that is within your power, because all you have to do is spend a little bit of extra time, look, instead of just doing day to day, look for an additional area. You know, we've all got that one thing we do at our job. It's a pain. We all hate doing it. It takes so long. So find a way to make it easier. And if you can do that, you get recognition, you get a reputation, you end up with pay rises, promotions, other opportunities internally. I mean, you know, and that's how it's taken me from some kid in London from a very, very poor family and very poor neighborhood to, you know, working around the world with some of the biggest names in the world. It's just following, how can I help? What else can we do to make this better? And you don't need the best education, the best qualifications, the best anything in order to do that. And it's why if you look at the average grade of a millionaire, a billionaire, or a CEO, the average grade is only grade C. The grade A and B work for the grade C's, because the grade C, they may not have the best qualifications, but they can think about, hey, what else can we do? So as opposed to just following and doing what you're told and just, you know, following up on that. And a bit of a shameless self-plug, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I have a website and there's like 130 articles of advice on how to, you know, how to actually upskill yourself or ask for a promotion or a pay rise or whatever else as well. So I apologize, I had to sneak that in.
Thank you, thanks. LB?
Right, so I'm just going to keep mine really simple. As I reflect back on my own career and think about what sort of got me through the career trajectory and land me at where I am today, I think it would be first, number one, resilience. I can't emphasize enough, right? Resilience. Number two, be very, very hungry to learn. Number three, be very, very hungry to succeed, right? And number four, be positive. Well, it's not going to be an easy journey, right? If it's, you know, it's going to be tough. You're going to get rejections. You're going to get, you're not going to get any interviews, and you might feel like you're at rock bottom, right? I would urge all of you to continue to be positive, because you will never know when the opportunity comes. You can't control that, but what you can control is getting yourselves ready for it, right? Which is the entire spirit, right, of the entire virtual career fair, where you've got site at the sites, you've got different like sort of micro learning programs happening. You've got different keynote speakers talking, giving advice. It's all about getting ready, right? Which is why it's called Skills Future, not Skills Now, right? Because you want to get yourselves ready for the future. So this will be the advice I'd like to share with everyone. And I really wish all the best to everyone as well in your career search, in shaping and succeeding in your own careers. Yep.
Thank you both for your encouragement and advice. With that, we have come to the end of our first Fireside Chat this afternoon. Please stay on, for those of you who are still with us, stay on for the next two Fireside Chats. But before that, please join me to thank Lee and LB for their very generous and engaging sharing. Very grateful for the time that they've set aside for us this afternoon. Thank you. Okay, back to you, Flo.